My name is Bill Pike. I'm a retired elementary school principal that lives in Kincardine, Ontario, Canada. And I met you a couple of years ago when you were on a rush to save your good wife's life. And I'm really glad to hear that she's doing better. And I thank you for inviting me today so that we can discuss something of common interest to that. And that is the books that I've been writing about seniors.
So two things I'll picked up from what you said just now. One was that you and I met because you offered me a ride to the airport.
Correct.
The guy offered me the ride, let me down. He called me the night before, took $85 from me because he didn't have petrol in the car, and then he didn't show up. So I was in a panic, and you were kind enough to drive me. Secondly, that was my first time in my lifetime to drive or be driven in a brand new Jaguar.
I still have it.
That was really nice.
And I love it as much as you did.
Thank God you didn't say it was a Tesla.
Well, that's true. I'm not going there.
No, I'm not going there. I shouldn't have gone there either. But the other thing was that you were offering your services totally free of charge. You've driven me there when we're in a place, Toronto people don't understand this. We don't have transit here, public transit. We're dependent on transporting by a friend, and there's no Uber either here. So that was a big help. Now, since then, I've got this thing happening all over Ontario. It's a driving pool. I've got 5 drivers driving people from Ottawa to Windsor. People land up at the wrong airport. People land up from Hamilton. They land up in London. So, but the beauty of that thing is they all wanted to pay originally, but they don't pay because they see it as passing it forward, as you call it. But 2 of those 5 people I met on New Year's Eve, and 2 of them have totally given up drinking. They were alcoholics who drank from 5 in the evening, from sunset, and now they are useful people. They see value in their life, and they help people like crazy. It was such that 2 years ago, on January 6th, I got a call from one lady I didn't know, and she said, "I want to meet you." I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm so-and-so's mother-in-law." So, "Why do you want to meet me?" She said, "He's been married to my daughter for some almost 25, 30 years. I've never seen him sober on New Year's Eve."
Isn't that wonderful?
So I feel good about those things. And in one of your books that you read, we'll talk about your book just now, but in one of your books, you mentioned about the Canadian have known, or Canadians should know, that the importance of helping thy neighbor.
Yes.
Can you talk about that, please?
Certainly. I didn't know whether you wanted to talk about the book generally, but let's follow your question directly, Ed, in that I believe Canadians are generous in nature and try to help each other, as I did to you. It was not something I had to think about. I believe it's kind of in the genes of Canadians to be as helpful as we can. So I responded to your phone call and said I had nothing to do, and I benefited from our drive as much as you did. I got you to the airport, but I learned about a wonderful man, and I enjoyed our 4 hours together. And when I went home, I felt that I had done a good thing to help you, and that made me feel good. And so that's the type of things that I do personally. I know you're going to ask me a couple of questions about my philosophy. One of the things I've learned very young in my life, I didn't have the words then, but right now I have 10 words that make a sentence that makes my life. And each word is 2 letters. It's kind of beautiful. It's called, "If it is to be, it is up to me." And that doesn't mean that it can't happen without Bill Pike. But if I want something to happen, then it's up to me to make it happen, as I did with you. And I feel that's my philosophy for my entire life. If I expect something out of life, it's up to me to make it happen. I can't expect others to take care of me. So that's been my, shall I say, my philosophy for my entire life. I'm almost as old as you.
Oh, you're still a young lad. I'm going to be 80 this year.
I know, you got 3 years on me.
Yeah. So back to your philosophy and back to the format that you mentioned. Your book has impressed me a lot. So there will be questions going back randomly. and I'm not the top achiever in my class, so I can't remember sequences. So when a thought comes, I'll spit it out. But it is your show, sir, so I'll let you talk about it. But before you go, I want to ask specifically your book title impresses me every time I talk about it. We have a long discussion about just those two words.
Yes, sir.
The
Well,
word.
I am proud of my educational background. I have a master's degree, and I also taught for Drake University. I'm a linguist. You have to be a bit of a linguist to write a book, as you know, because I know you're doing that too. But that title came to me in an inspiration, and it is. I have it here. I think you know it already. Seniors matter, and then I put the apostrophe italics matters, because the book is about we as seniors matter. In Canada, the first chapter says that we are the largest demographic in Canada of seniors. So it's amazing. And we sometimes forget our power, not as in strength, but in might and numbers. So the title was very important to me. All three books about seniors matters are exactly the same title. I've kept it because it does say seniors matter, and also the book is full of matters that matter to seniors. So I believe it's a clever catch, but it's very important to me. It speaks to me, as I'm glad it speaks to you, because that's the title of the book.
So those two words, I play around with that a lot, and I mentioned that to a lot of educated people, linguists, people like you, and often I'm asked which is the pronoun, which is the verb, and which is the noun.
Well, without getting into a grammar lesson, the noun is seniors. That is the person we're talking about. I played a pun on it because it says matter, which is a verb, but it also is a noun because it says matters pertaining to seniors. So I'm not trying to be clever. It actually covers both a noun and a verb.
Right. But shouldn't there also be a apostrophe in the word seniors or after the word seniors?
It could be. It
Okay.
could be. Basically, as a noun, I'm just using it as a plural. I could say
Okay. That makes sense.
friends.
Okay.
Friends.
Yeah.
Apostrophe is actually possession as opposed to plural.
Okay. So going further, and we'll come back to this whenever you feel like it, please, because this is an important thing. This is what people remember. And if I had a long sentence, they say it and forget about it. But two words, that's all it is. So we'll come back to it often. So one important part that keeps coming up is why do seniors matter, and how do you define a senior? Because today, where we are, especially in Kincardine, in the footprint of the nuclear power plant, there are people who are retired at 50s.
Yes.
And they're not seniors, right? So definition of seniors, and somewhere I read over there that he talked about driving when some people take good care of a car, others treat it as a family. So the same thing
answer your question,
your own health. Some people take care of others better than themselves. And I think you are one of those that you don't look after yourself as well as you do others. I'm saying it in a nice way.
Yes. To answer your question, the definition of senior in Canada is when they start paying you money for being old. So technically, a senior in Canada is 65 years old. And historically, you worked till 65 and died at 66. So it was not a very long senior life. You're correct. People are retiring much earlier due to affluence and lifestyles and ability to accumulate things they don't need to work their life for. My definition of a senior is when you are looking to the last stage of your life, which is one of the chapters in my book. I know we'll get into it eventually. But I stopped looking backwards and started looking forward. And that's when I realized I'm a senior. My time is unlimited. I have no idea what will happen to me. But when you start looking forward and making sure that you're taking care of the future, you stop living in the now and you start thinking of the future. And that, to me personally, is the definition of a senior. And so if you're 55 and you're planning your future, your retirement, your money and your house and your family, you're a senior. It's a title. Middle age is a title. What is middle age? Is that 30 to 40? Is it 40 to 50? Middle age is when you're productive, you have a full family, all your engines are running 150%. That's middle age. We understand what youth is, but seniors to me is when you are not worried about the future, but taking care of it. And that's why the book meant so much to me, and that's why it's been so popular, is because I've tried to help seniors look forward. What is it that you have not thought about yet? Your will, downsizing, your health, diabetes. And the topics just kept flowing year after year as I wrote for our local newspaper, the Kincardine Record, which you're very well familiar with. So they accumulated over a number of years, and then I've put them into books. And so your answer, a senior is when you think you're a senior, you are.
Good, thank you. I've been mental health initiatives and suicide prevention has been high on my list right now, and I'm finding that in this area, just using an example, when a guy finishes high school 16, 17, 18, he goes to a trade school and he gets a job at Bruce Paul. So
Yes.
at 21, he's getting a well-paid job. 35 years he works there. He's still barely 50 or 52, 53. He's entitled to retire with a full pension. Now, invariably, these idiots think that they're going to be golfing 12 months in a year. They forget our Canadian winters. They also forget that the foursome that they enjoy has not all retired, so they're on their own. So invariably, I should not generalize, but majority of the time, they'll end up either depressed, alcoholic, marriage problem, financial problem, because they can't handle free time. Money they've got so much that they don't need to worry about budget, but
Correct.
time they don't know how to use. So
There's pluses and minuses to affluence. We are very fortunate in Canada that we do have a very affluent society, and you've hit a lot of them. That we are so blessed to have a good life that sometimes we squander them. I stopped my job as a principal when I was 53, so that fits your description. Did I stop living or learning? No, I've done more in the 24 years I've been retired than I did in my 31 years as a principal. They were wonderful years, full, productive, meaningful to me, and I think I made an impact on Kincardine education. But my life has not stopped when I stopped principaling. I actually felt like, you know, the story of, what is it called? Willie, the groundhog. I felt the day I retired, I stuck my head out of the ground and looked around and realized there was a whole world there that I didn't have time to realize because I was working 90% of the time trying to relax, and life was full and enjoyable. But since then, I've had a cornucopia of opportunities and jobs. I've had jobs from driving skid school to help people with the winter, to writing books, to traveling. So I believe life is a journey, and different stages demand different times and effort. So my job was fulfilling, wonderful, but not my life. I'm my life 24 hours a day.
So this is in keeping with one of your quotes I read somewhere saying, "Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege many don't get to enjoy." And then you ended
That's
up saying, "I'd rather burn out than rust out."
that's the last page of my book. You've done a good job of reading it all. Yes.
Cover to cover.
Don't fret about old age. It's an honor to be here because unfortunately, and even at my age, there's a lot of my friends that have not been able to enjoy it, and my dearest friends have passed, and I find that very hard. But you're right. Don't be afraid of old age. It's the alternative isn't as quite as nice.
Yeah. And you don't have a choice, so no point worrying about it.
Well, I would like to challenge you in that you do have a choice. Your choices of life. You talked about the friends that you have changed their style of life, and things that you do in your life that you do have the power to change it, no matter what your age is. And so the books that I've written have challenged people to take a look at where you are now. What could make your life better? I had trouble with prostate. I had trouble with diabetes still today. I'd like to proudly say that I'm off insulin for the last 2 years because I changed my life. And in the book, I talk about the China study, and I was eating bad things, ice cream by the ton, and then wondering why my cholesterol and things were going bad. So I would challenge your statement just a little bit in fun, but we do have the power to change our life at any age. And so the topics that I've come up with are interesting to me, hopefully inspirational to the readers as they were to you, and basically saying, if it is to be, it's up to me, no matter what age you are. And if something happens, such as the terrible event that happened to your wife, nothing you can do about that. And yet she raised herself to that challenge and has done well because of her strength. And I don't know what she had to change, but we all have the ability to be in charge of ourselves. That's all I'm saying in the books.
And somewhere you also said that research often begins when one is confronted by a new challenge.
Yes.
So a lot of capabilities that we had that were sleeping in there, all of a sudden, my wife didn't go through what I did, I would complain and moan and groan. But now all of a sudden I realized I had to live for somebody else too.
Correct. I will go back to diabetes. I had friends who were diabetic forever. It doesn't mean anything until you start sticking a needle in your arm every day and going, oh my God. And that is a real slap in the face, going, okay, you can either adapt to it and change, or you can continue. And I am very, very proud. My doctor, who probably is your same doctor, said that I'm one of the few people that have changed my life so dramatically through my diet, my habits, that I'm no longer using my insulin pen. He goes, that happens about 1% of the time. So I asked him, why? And he said, well, people don't want to change. They want things to help them maintain their own life. And that's basically 100% wrong. If something's not working, why are you beating your head against the wall every day? So we are in charge of our own destinies. Fate is going to come. Illnesses come. Accidents happen. But we can generally control what we do with our lives if we choose to take it seriously. And frankly, this is the only life I got. So I'm taking it pretty seriously, as you do yours.
And just a little bit, I'll tell you about myself. I've been a diabetic for a long time, and trying to get off insulin, they put me on Ozempic. Okay. And Ozempic started about the same time as my wife's cancer was diagnosed. So in those first 6 months, I lost 43 pounds.
Whoa, and well, that's good.
I wasn't a big guy to begin with. So now I can feel all my bones, and now they're telling me to eat everything other than sugar. Eat not cholesterol, but carbohydrates and potatoes.
Carbohydrates, that's right.
I'm not gaining. I can't gain 5 pounds in the last 6 months. But
why did you start eating ice cream? You'll be fat like I was.
No, that's
exactly right. Part of my change was the same as you, Ed. I was a heavier man than I am now. I'm still a good size. But I lost 45 pounds, which was the first start. I stopped doing things that were bad for my body, and my body's thanked me by saying, okay, you know what? I do take pills. It's called metformin, which is metformin, I believe, which is similar to yours. Mm-hmm. But I hate needles, and to do that for 5 years drove me crazy. And I am so proud of myself that I was able to do what I had to not have the needle. So that's it. I guess I'm saying the book talks, but all my books talk about your ability to do what you want to do. If it is to be, it's up to me. And I had to change myself. And do I have foibles? Yes. I think we all do. Do I minimize them? Hopefully. I eat regularly salads, and it's called a Mediterranean diet or a Chilean diet. But I would have roast beef dinner, gravy, ice cream. Similar. I'm going, well, why do I have diabetes? Well, hello. It adds up. So do I miss ice cream? Well, my wife's not here today, but I'll say maybe I sneak out once a month, have an ice cream cone, but not regular. So again, my topics trying to encourage the reader to look at what they're doing. Is it good? Great. If it isn't good, why are you doing it? you might as well bang your head against the wall every day.
Mhm.
So that's why I think the book has been well received, because it gives people ideas about things, such as you have moved into your condominium in Phillips. I was at the house that you lived in. You
Right,
downsized. You
right,
needed to do that. Well, it
right.
was easy for you. Other people find, well, this is my house. I was born here. I'm going to die here. Their house is a trap. That's not safe. They're not thinking forward. So many of the chapters I deal with, are you happy where you are? Are you safe where you are? What could you do to make your house better, such as bathroom stall handles and stuff like that? Common sense things that until somebody else questions you on it, you really don't think about it.
And my and downsizing selfishly was also trying to get close to Trillium Court. But
Well, I hope that's a long time before you move there, but you certainly are in the right position, because you won't have to move. You just have to walk down the street.
yeah, but Bill, my purpose was twofold. One is to find people that I need to help. And every day we find, looking out of our window, we find people going through 6, 7, 8 inches of snow with a
Yes.
walker going to no frills. And
Yep.
then they go there and they get restricted to what they need and what they can carry home. So
Correct.
I often follow them with my car and I say, look, you can load my car up, whatever you want. And we start conversations like that. And some of the people there, I'm driving to hospitals. But when I tell others, hey, you are fit, you should be doing this with me, rather than paying me, you should pay it. They get upset at me. They say, you want me to go around driving this, doing that, do that. I said, no, I don't want you to go and shovel everybody's driveway. But what's the harm in asking Mrs. Smith next door? You notice that her garbage can has been outside for 3 days after garbage day.
Yeah.
Maybe something's wrong. Just go and ask her, do you want a loaf of bread? Or I'm going to the store. And people say, oh, never thought of that. I
Yeah.
can number of people who say, I never thought of that. I thought that
That,
would be kind of in cutting into her privacy. But there are
yes.
people like that, right? And I know I have personally experienced people who don't need help, but they're struggling. They don't know how to open a jar. They've got everything they need in the house. They got a carton of milk and they don't know how to open the thing. They cut
Yes.
the thing with a pair of scissors. So,
Yep.
and that gives
That's
me an excuse to chat with them for 2 minutes more, right?
exactly. That's one of the chapters in near the end of my first book, is that it's called Pay Forward Tuesdays, and I started that about 15 years ago personally. So every Tuesday, I find somebody, something to do. That doesn't mean I don't do anything for the other 6 days. But
Mhm.
yesterday, I went to the grocery store, and it was Pay Forward Tuesday. I met a lady, a veteran down here, who had one leg, and she was in a wheelchair with a piece of cardboard.
Hmm.
Well, I was rather generous to her, because I just can't imagine where she goes at night. And so Pay Forward is can happen every day, but what I've done is every Tuesday. For example, at Tim Hortons, you should follow me someday, because on Tuesdays, whoever's behind me gets a free treat. They don't even know who I am, unless you're ordering for your entire Bruce Power, and then I would probably say, well, I can't afford that. But yeah, it's your attitude of what you can do to help other people, and you are very generous. You have a talent of seeking and acknowledging and helping other people. I admire you for that very much.
No, and thank you for saying that. But I have to be very careful. Now I'm a little older, so I'm willing to take risks because life in jail doesn't scare me so much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you
But
have to be aware of yourself.
yeah, but if going to a young lady and saying, "Can I help you?" I don't know how she'll take it. So my
That's the social times we're in. Yes,
that's right.
50
But
years ago it was fine,
again,
but now we got to be careful. I
yeah,
agree, and you have
yeah.
to be respectful.
But how careful can you be? No, I can stop giving people a ride because they might sue me.
Yes,
Same as you.
yes.
Does your
Anything's
insurance know
possible.
that you gave people rides?
Yeah.
So things like that. But then common sense has to kick in. And in Ontario, we have the Samaritan's Law, Good Samaritan's Act. If you try to help somebody and you break their leg, you're not liable. Okay.
Correct.
So going back to in Toronto, I rented a place in Toronto because I saw the fate of the students there. And Sundays I used to take shut-ins, we call them in the church, from the church to. So long story short, the church told me, do whatever you like, but don't tell them the church sent you.
Yes. Well,
Because
that
of
becomes a liability then, doesn't it?
liabilities. I said, oh boy. No.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's a sad state if we have to go that far. And I said,
It
worst
is.
case is if they're going to sue me, let them sue me, lock me up, I'll get free meals and maybe somebody will visit me more often. But it's something that is scary, And
It is.
there are times when I try to help people and they don't want help. They don't want to be lifted. They don't want to be picked up. They're, because I don't have the authority. They're hoping somebody with a big roll of money will come and help them. But every case is different, so we don't stop. I
No,
agree.
no,
Yeah.
you don't stop.
Now,
And
three
all
examples.
you can do, Ed, is offer.
Yeah.
And you're a senior man, very capable. If I saw you struggling with a bag of groceries, I would offer. We're the same age, so you would accept it. Other people, I would be more cautious and careful. Why is this man approaching me? We have I think it's called an aura of safety. So yeah, we have to learn, but doesn't mean we stop doing it. It
No,
means that we
exactly.
just have to play by the rules.
Right. Right. Yeah, in Sacramento, there was a lady on the roadside, homeless lady, struggling to find a $5 bill in her wallet. So I walked by and I had some money and I forced the money into her wallet. And she turned around, grabbed her umbrella or cane or something, and started beating the shit out of me. She thought I was stealing money from her.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the people on the other side of the sidewalk, they knew her, so they came to my rescue. So they said, don't help
Well,
everybody.
unfortunately, we as humans can never understand or know what the other person is thinking. My effort of generosity towards you could be totally misconstrued by you, and my intent is honest, but you're going, "What's happening?" So I just don't think you stop giving because of the problems. You maybe just have to be more careful in stuffing money into a woman's purse. Because if I
Yeah,
was walking by, I'd say, "This man's stealing her purse," and I would arrest you. So
yeah.
I can see that you haven't done everything perfectly in your life.
But my dad used to say, in every deck of cards, there are two jokers. That's 4%. So do
Well,
whatever you do
I
for
think
the
in some societies it's more than 4%, but I'll agree with you on that.
next. Four. I need four simple examples from you. Okay. And I'm going
Well,
to be the devil's advocate and I'm going to ask you and you're going to tell me. Okay. Please.
maybe.
Bill, I'm
Yes,
69. I've got braces on my legs. I've got braces on my neck. How the hell can I help my neighbor?
many ways. Calling them, because isolation in seniors is one of the major problems. I'm a widow or a widower by myself. Writing cards, sending gifts. You are very crippled, but you make cookies every day. There's ways to share with people other than physically. Spiritually, you would lift me up if you called me and saying, "Hey, how you doing? Would you like to have a cup of tea today?" Cost you nothing except time and your personality. So physically, sometimes we can't help because of your own ailments, but it doesn't mean you. Uh, Giving is not always material in nature. Often it's spiritual. You give a person a lift just by hugging them. Well, better not hug too many people because you can get in trouble. But you can give of yourself no matter what your abilities are. And if you're in a wheelchair, for example, I may go back to that homeless lady. She gave me a gift yesterday with a, I'm going to tear up because she had a tear in her eye. So didn't cost her anything. I gave her a good sum of money and she paid me back more than I gave her. So physically, monetarily, sometimes we can't. But your neighbor is suffering the same way you are. And you maybe don't even know their challenges. So just talking or listening is probably more important, because we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use it in that ratio. So you could be a helper to anybody just by being yourself. Pick me up on the phone, give me a call, and that makes my day. Okay, that's one.